Hi, I'm Jean Ennerson. Welcome to Homeland. What you're about to see is the second of 6 episodes featuring 2 countries, the United States and the Soviet Union, as seen through the eyes of 2 producers, an American and a Russian. The intent of Homeland, as with many of the joint productions I've done in the United States and the Soviet Union, is to further international understanding through communication. Now, to do this, the producers filmed in both countries using a joint crew, and the identical version of the show will air in each country on the same day. We'll travel with the crew as they examine the dramatic changes happening in both countries today. This is, in fact, a story of change for the producers, for the people they meet, and for 2 great countries. This episode takes us to Santa Fe and to Leningrad. It's about war's profound effect on the character and outlook of a nation. It's about cultures learning to overcome historical conflict so people can live together. It's a story of suffering and struggle, of hope, and finally, responsibility.
Communication, the movement of ideas and understanding between the people of different lands. The people of Leningrad suffered terribly during the last war. What did this do to their outlook? The war's memory lives today with the Soviet military. How does it affect the way they see their purpose? People of different cultures live together in Santa Fe, New Mexico, yet they have a history of warfare spanning centuries. How can they get along? We are interested in the future of the Soviet Union and the United States. We want to see who is responsible for the path we are to take. I'm Stanley Odell from Washington State, and my partner in this project is Alexander Andreev from Moscow. We bring you the story of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, seen in 2 different cities, and ever smaller, yet very similar world apart.
Leningrad, our city of passion and pain, of culture and beauty, home of Pushkin and Dostoevsky, birthplace of our revolution. It is a city with its own spirit, and its citizens are recognizable anywhere.
It is also a city of war and siege. In 1941, Leningrad began 900 days of blockade by the German army. Close to 1 million soldiers and civilians perished from shelling, starvation, and a minus 40-degree winter. Our story is to begin with this, though I can't imagine how.
To even hope to feel some of this ordeal and its effects on my people, we must find a guide, someone who was here.
Zoya Vassilievna Blucher's father was one of the first 5 marshals of the Soviet Union. He was executed by Stalin. During the blockade, Zoya worked in libraries and dug fortifications. After the war, because of her family name, she was arrested. She brought me to an old battleground and spoke with me of those days.
Вам будет нелегко понять вот всю глубину.
It will not be easy for you to understand all the depth of suffering and ordeals that the Soviet people had to go through during the Great Patriotic War. I should say that autumn was very early and very cold, and the winter of 1941-42 was horribly cold. You know what cold is? When there is no heating anywhere. You know, there were buildings where all the people died. A whole apartment would die. And in spite of that, no one tree was cut down.
We spoke for quite a while, and I asked her how our story should begin.
Мне кажется, нужно прежде всего поехать на наше мемориальное Пискаревское кладбище.
The first thing you should do is to go to our memorial Piskarovskaya cemetery, where you will be amazed to see the number of people who died. And besides that, of course, you should get acquainted with the veterans who survived the blockade. Listen to their stories. These are precious stories. This is their life experience that they went through themselves. Besides that, you will be amazed to know that almost, not even almost, but every family lost somebody in this war.
At the Piskaryovskoye cemetery outside of Leningrad, I could sense the scope of tragedy that affects the Soviet people. 500,000 lie here in mass graves numbered by the year. Zoya's final words to me had been that the most horrible wounds are in the hearts of the people. These wounds remain very much alive.
Зоя Борисовна Никуличева ищет брата Валерия Петровича Никуличева.
Moscow Radio, to this day, continues to search for the missing.
Анатолий Петрович Клёв.
From names to vague recollections, our country tries to reunite its broken
До
families.
1942 года он жил в городе Колпино, Ленинград.
In 25 years, only 1,500 have been reunited. Last year, just 14.
A department of the Leningrad City Militia remains devoted to this continuing work. While I am surprised by this, for my Soviet friends it is just life here. The hope and joy for these people is to reunite a family. From them, we learned of a recent success.
Nona Ilinskaya was reunited with the daughters of a sister who starved to death during the blockade. She remembers her and the day she died. Her sister had been giving all of her daily bread ration of about 4 ounces to her girls. And one day she simply did not return from work. Her 3- and 8-year-old daughter would not see each other and their aunt again for 38 years.
We asked the aunt to tell us of those times, of the hunger, and of the final consequence of starvation.
Хлеб это был просто, он не похож на хлеб.
Bread didn't resemble real bread.
Что там было намешано?
There was absolutely no flour in it.
Для вкуса, хотя и вкуса не было.
What was mixed in there, we were not told.
Это страшнее смерти.
Something to make it taste like bread,
Еще где-то повторится, мне
but it
переживать
didn't.
Я это не выдержала. Я бы это не выдержала.
Люди людей кушали во время блокады? Были такие случаи?
Did
Вы знаете,
people
что я
eat
вам хочу
people?
сказать?
You know what I have to tell you? I can't prove it.
Ну, слухи есть слухи. Но
Rumors
это-
are rumors, but
Я
this is no
шла к
rumor.
врачу на улицу Маяковскую, ну, она сейчас есть там
I was going to my doctor, to Mikoska Street. They still have a polyclinic there. I'm approaching the door to enter and I can see a man lying on the floor half naked and his hip is full of bites. All the soft tissue is eaten. I got scared. I had to step over him. I was scared. There was another man going by and he grabbed me by my arm and said, come on, lady, don't worry. And I said, who could have done it? How horrible. Could it have been a hooligan who did such a horrible thing to him? And there were no dogs. They had all been eaten by then. Hunger, I think, is more scary than death. If I was told that this would somehow ever repeat again, and I would have to survive it, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to.
We have come to the home of Anna Tarasovna Semyonova. She is the recipient of this country's highest civilian award for bravery, Hero of Socialist Labor. It was a privilege to speak with her.
Очень трудно.
It's very hard to recall. I became a soldier from the very first days of the war, voluntarily.
И мы попали в окружение.
We got surrounded in a forest.
Тогда, когда
Nothing was left. No food, no medicine,
ни
nothing.
медикаментов, ничего. Мы с себя
We
рвали
tore our shirts to bandage the wounded.
и привязывали раненым раны. Они меня обстреляли всю.
They shot me all
У меня
over.
шинель была.
The coat that I had on, well, there was no place that didn't have a bullet hole.
Видишь, судьба.
See, here is my destiny. I only got my face frozen and my arm wounded.
Вот когда мы привозили здесь раненых в Ленинград,
When we brought the wounded to Leningrad, it was horrible to see. There was no light, no water,
транспорт не ходил.
no
Люди были
transportation.
голодные, холодные.
People were starved, frozen. It was terrifying. You couldn't tell a young girl from an old woman. They were all wrapped in shawls. They looked awful. The task of all the soldiers during the war was the same: not to give away what our fathers and grandfathers have won, not to give away our motherland,
Не сдаться,
because this is our Soviet motherland.
что это наша советская родина.
This
это
is
наша
our
жизнь.
lives.
These scars of war remain on the city and people of Leningrad. Everyone here we spoke with told us such a story. Is this what has shaped the Soviet character? We return to Zoya Blucher for an answer.
Да, чтобы понять советский народ,
In order to understand the Soviet people, you need to consider, first of all, the historical situation. This is not only the war hardships that the Soviet people were destined to live through, it is also the hard pressures of the period of stagnation and the period of Stalin's repressions. All of these, taken together, of course, have formed the strength of the Russian character.
With an appreciation for these deep experiences, we go on to the modern Soviet military. For me, still a forbidding thought. For what values does today's Soviet soldier stand ready to fight? The Soviet military. For me, the menacing force waiting just over the horizon. It is in this light I have always seen them. As a U.S. Army tank captain in the 1960s, I trained to meet the Soviet threat. I believe this was the way to defend my country. Does the Soviet soldier feel this same sense of purpose? With a new understanding of this country's war experience, I ask the question, what is the purpose of the Soviet military?
The Soviet child is raised with a strong sense of respect and protection for his motherland. Given the suffering we have endured in war, this should be understandable. Does not the individual soldier stand ready to serve and defend his homeland? Is it not with this single value in mind that he drives his tank or aims his rifle?
This may be the simple answer. In the eyes of each soldier, the purpose of the military is the protection of his nation.
What do you think the purpose of the Soviet military is?
Just one purpose, to defend the motherland.
We have no other purpose against American people. All we want is to live in peace and agreement with them.
Do you feel ready to do this?
I feel ready.
What is the purpose of the Soviet army?
Purpose? To defend the achievements of the socialist revolution.
Could you ever see the Soviet army attacking other countries?
Нет.
Never?
No.
No?
Нет, никогда.
Never. How about you? How do you feel?
Никак нет.
Absolutely not. I can't even imagine it.
What impressed me most through these talks was not what was said, but the sincerity in each reply. I saw a well-trained and dedicated force. I did not see hatred. Yet I was left with my question only partially answered. What other factor determines the nature of a military force? All nations state their armed services are for defense. But who decides when and where to defend?
This question leads us to the government and the part it plays in the use of military force. We are visiting the anti-aircraft cruiser Perikop during battle drill in the Gulf of Finland. In the Soviet armed forces, the second in command of each unit has a function unlike any in the American services. He is the political officer, the zampolit.
When a person enters the army, he is educated somewhat differently here, both as a defender of his motherland and as a citizen of the Soviet Union. As a defender of his motherland, he can be educated by any officer. But as a citizen, the moral aspect of his education, this is my work. And of course, issues of his political education also.
I've always been led to believe that communism saw itself as evolving into a world government, all countries functioning this way.
Yes, I think so too. If we try to build communism in our country, and there is a capitalist country neighbor, I personally think that world communism cannot be achieved. I'm not saying that we're going to build world communism by use of arms. I think that one way or another, you, the United States, will arrive at this idea yourselves. And you will also be building a communist society because I think the ideals of communist society are consistent with human character from a purely moral point of view.
Is the Soviet military in existence to further communism?
No, it isn't. None of the documents issued by our government leadership say that. As long as I've studied and worked in the military forces, I have never run into it.
With every government, there are powerful political motives involved in the use of the military. It is the government that establishes the time and place the country needs to be defended. But if the people do not question and hold their leaders accountable, the government's use of force may lead to tragic consequences.
We are at a family cemetery on the outskirts of Leningrad. Boris and Anna Filin have come to visit the grave of their only son, Igor. Boris is a colonel in the Soviet army, a mathematician, an author and a Communist Party member. Their son volunteered 8 times to serve in Afghanistan and was killed there 10 days before his 20th birthday. His fellow soldiers killed the 16-year-old Afghan boy who had shot him.
What do these two boys have to do with it? What? What is it for? Didn't they have anything better to do in this world?
We were raised ourselves in a spirit of love for our motherland, of course, patriotism, internationalism. I myself, as a mother, suggested all of this to him. And I raised my son, well, just the way I described. This is what he thought his duty was. Who, if not me?
I would tell him, don't go there, Igor. As a human being, as an officer, I think that this war was not needed. And those 10 years that our guys were being killed there, those were just wasted lives. And so the truth should be told. Who is guilty? Why have our guys from Russia been killed there for 10 years? It is not clear yet. It appears that there is no one to blame.
I'm meeting with veterans of the Afghanistan war. Many have been physically wounded. All have been hurt.
Any army fights. The thing is that we do not define the concept, unfortunately. Nobody asks us. We fulfilled our duty there for some time because of compulsory military service, but nobody asks us where the army went or why.
I knew we had an army that defended us while we slept. I entered that army, and for 2 years I was doing what I must do. And furthermore, we were defending Afghanistan from you. We were told that if we were not there, then the Americans and American bases would be there. By doing this, we were defending Afghanistan from you.
Our tragedy is not only that everything is so bad here, but that even the smallest official, is afraid to make a decision, any decision, no matter whether it's quite legal or illegal. He's afraid to make a decision. This is why we are so inconvenient for them. I'll teach my son. A man must be able to defend his motherland without being an aggressor. I'll teach him to love people, other people in other countries, to have respect for other countries. This is my main task. If every one of us would teach this to his child, we would have a good beginning.
These men believed and served, just as their American brothers in arms did in Vietnam. As a soldier serves his country, so must a government serve its people. If we are to hold our leaders accountable for their decisions, we must first look to ourselves, for we have allowed these people to lead.
In his home, Boris played for us a song about his son. He forgives the Afghan boy who took his son's life and sings of two grieving mothers.
Leningrad has shown us beauty and sadness, and it has raised the question of responsibility. Our crew is now ready to leave for the city of Santa Fe, where we will continue our story. Can people of different cultures live together? Can we avoid this? Santa Fe, New Mexico, a southwest American city in the high desert foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It is blessed with beautiful land and sky. The second oldest city in the United States is rich with history. The end of the famous Santa Fe Trail, the location of the oldest church in this country. Today it is the state capital and abounds with culture, art and artists, and tourists. It is home to three principal cultures, and the city is interwoven with their vibrance.
We've been drawn to a place its people call magic, yet it is a city with a violent past. First, home to the Native American people who lost their land to Spanish guns centuries ago. Home to the Spanish, who in turn lost much of their ancestral holdings to the Anglo and his law. Three cultures with a history of conflict and violence, live today side by side in a place all call home. Our story continues in this intriguing city as we ask, how can different people live together? What are the factors?
Felipe Cabeza de Vaca, a man whose ancestors came to Santa Fe in the 1500s. Of Spanish descent, he is today a plumber, gardener, an artist, and the creator of the Space Science Center. He offers this facility without charge to local residents to further their awareness of what's up there.
See that? See that? Then those are the stars you would see. See that?
Felipe is, as he says, a man of many spirits. He is quick to anger and to befriend. And he is resentful of the injustices his people have experienced over time. He is certainly part of Santa Fe.
So, we are now in the United States. What is your attitude towards George Washington?
George Washington is not the father of my country. You know, we didn't have a father here. Since this area was occupied by the U.S. government, they haven't done anything good for anybody. They came and they brought a new language. They brought new money, new laws, new religions. And then the Spanish before them brought all the Bibles, and we had all the land, the people here. Now we're holding the Bibles and they have the land. Once again, the Hispanic community has always been very oppressed. In some cases, self-oppressed. In my mind, a self-oppressed person is a person that does not struggle from within to see through a lot of the clouds that are in the community. Of course, we can't compete with the top-going American type of big business because we're not given the opportunity. We're not educated people. We're more pride. We're more a pride culture. We're always very proud of everything. We have nothing and we're so proud.
What would you say you like the best about this city, living here?
The greatest thing in Santa Fe is it's a multicultural community, not the three cultures. It's a multicultural, because everybody's from some place and has something to contribute.
Another visit with a family of a similar history and yet a very different outlook. Eliseo and Paula Rodriguez have experienced many of the difficulties common to the Hispanic community. However, their perspective remains very unusual. Both accomplished artisans with a family history in Santa Fe that dates back generations.
I was born here in 1915, so that means that I've lived here 73 years in Santa Fe. We started with 2 rooms and we did all the work ourselves.
How many acres did your family originally have here?
And people inherited thousands of acres, and part of my family inherited so much from the King of Spain. But then gradually it started disappearing as time goes by, and selling pieces of land here and there.
How did the Spanish take the land?
By fighting against the Indians, and they say, well, this is what we're going to take, and then it was through grants. That's why my family eventually inherited. It was through grants came from Spain, you see.
Do problems exist between the cultures here?
Yeah, like I said, yes.
Do you think that the land has a lot to do with the frictions that exist between the cultures here?
That we know for a fact. People that came in, they were lawyers, they knew the law, they knew how to divide the properties and everything else. And that was it. If you try to claim it, it was too late, you see.
Do you have any resentments about the loss of your land?
Absolutely not. No. The reason for it is because we didn't know the value of it, you see. And if what you don't know isn't going to hurt me, because if I would have known the value at the time, then it would have been a different deal, you see. But so there's nothing that I could resent now, because no, that's the way it had to be, you see. And it's kind of nice that other people are making use of that particular. It's a beautiful building that they built in our property. Looks nice now. It's not ours, but I tell Paula, look how beautiful it looks now.
There are many places in this country where different nationalities live together. What's so special about Santa Fe?
And I think that's the beauty of the whole deal. It's a matter of democracy where we're working together as a team. And I'm talking about Santa Fe in that respect.
At first, Stanley and I felt the attitude of these people to be too easy, too unrealistic. Only after time did we begin to recognize the strength which comes with simple respect and forgiveness.
We looked at the Soviet military today. We went out on...
We had been invited to a Friday night gathering at the home of John Paul and Roxanne Valdez. Here we have the opportunity to ask young Hispanic adults about getting along and to learn of their values.
You have these different cultures in this city that get along and they don't get along, and there are jealousies and there are prejudices and there are reasons for it. Can you as one person do something about this?
I feel it begins with the person, with one person. I feel it begins with yourself. And once you're at peace with yourself and you're happy, you can start helping others to be at peace with themselves and to be happy. And from there on, it should spread to the world.
Someone else, tell me, what's the strongest part of the Spanish culture? Your best?
Their pride.
Do you all think that?
Yeah.
Pride?
They're very proud people.
I think it's their work ethic. They work real hard for what they got.
Tell me about your cars.
Our cars? Well, that's... Our cars are pride and joy. Me, myself, being that I'd rather spend my money on my car and make it look good to show off and show the other culture, show what I've got.
Also, I agree with the reason why we have the cars is to show you that we've worked for something, not that we got it handed down from anyone, and that's how come we take pride in our car.
And a lot of things I hear from the Anglos, I'm not putting them down or anything, but I hear it's like, where did he get that? You know, where did he get that car? Did he steal it? Where did he get that watch? Did he steal it?
Did he get drugs?
To do it?
You know,
think about us all the time. That's what you hear a lot of.
Or how did you get it?
Work.
Hard work.
We worked. We got a job.
We have seen some of the history that affects the Hispanic community here, and we have seen different ways of dealing with this. The word that has begun to emerge through our conversations as the key to living in the city is respect.
For 50 years, Santa Fe has been the home of master saddle maker Austin Slim Green. He has lived and worked with the different people here and is a man who values his friends, his horses, and his craft.
No, I don't make a lot of money. My pride is in the work. I first think about the horse and the customer. I want the horse to be comfortable with the saddle, and I want the customer to be happy with the saddle.
Why do you think so many white people, even in Santa Fe here, have problems with the Indians?
They come in, a lot of the Anglo people that come in here, as I say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. They want to bend them to their way of thinking instead of accepting them as they are, as we are.
What's it take for people to get along?
Just get to know the other fella and respect his theories and let him respect yours. I think they've just got to get together and get to know each other and know each other's whole thinking.
Where there are conflicts in the family, the problem is who will make the first step. Who do you think should make the first step between our countries?
Well, I'm gonna say a little quote that I kind of like. When I first came to New Mexico, one old person told me, he says, to get along with the Spanish people, you meet them halfway, and then you take one step further over on their side. In other words, I think if each country get together and go a little bit further than stopping, there would be something there. I've always, it's the same old theory, give more than you receive, and it'll always work out better in the long run.
Have you lived your life like that?
I've tried to.
I've drawn all my life, and there was never a question in my mind what I wanted to do in life. I didn't know it would work out quite this well. It's been a wonderful life's adventure.
A nationally acclaimed artist and a member of the Cowboy Artists of America, Gary Niblett is a newcomer to Santa Fe. Attracted by the light and the people, his work reflects his skill and regard for his neighbors.
I like to see a variety of cultures, a variety of people. Go down to the Pueblo during the summer months, not only the Pueblos, but even out here in Santa Fe at the plaza. Every weekend there's something going on, something Hispanic or something Indian or something Anglo. There's a celebration all the time about something, and it just makes it interesting. It's got to affect the art when you go around the plaza and you see an Indian from one of the Pueblos who have spent so much time on their craft and so much love making those pottery bowls that they do and the wonderful necklaces and everything. I love that. They have pride, and in turn it gives me pride in where I'm living and the fact that I get to share life with those people. The Spanish also, there's a little town near here that called La Cienega, where they do everything the old way. And I like to go out and look and see what they're doing, and it gives me wonderful ideas for paintings. And just the fact that 300 and 400 years ago, that's the way they were here, and I'm living here where all of that sort of thing took place. And there's something magic about that. There's something that you can use always in your paintings. It seems an extra little lift when you try to design a painting, knowing that kind of culture is behind you.
Gary and Slim are two different men who share a common value, respect. And to me, their lives seem much richer for it. Conflict over the ages has shaped Santa Fe. Its effects linger on in the spirit of its people. Where some remain angry, others forgive. Yet all seem to hold some tolerance and respect for their neighbors.
We have seen a community that is in fact a product of its cultures. It could not exist as it is without each of them. The beauty and charm of Santa Fe lies in the mixing of its people, while its strength is drawn from the resolution of their differences.
But why here? What is it about this area that has caused the community to develop this way? With this question, we turn to Santa Fe's first people, the Native American.
I came into this world as a Native American. I'm going to leave as a Native American. And if I come back again, I hope to come back as a Native American.
We spoke to Darren Wihale Gray of his people, the land, and the future.
What then is the strength of the Native people? Is there something that makes you strong?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's a spirit that you cannot find in Anglo society because they've let go of too much, too long ago. They've let go of their roots. They're constantly trying to create something new, something that is new and will obviously be alien to them. They always have to subdue nature. They always have to almost outdo nature, and in the process they lose their touch with themselves, with their identity as people.
What's happening with the Indian people today?
I believe the Indian people are going back to their roots. There's an old saying that the old people say, telling the young people to eventually you're going to have to go back to the heritage, the traditions, the stories that were told to you as children or even as adults. And that's just to be proud of what you are. Be proud of that you are a Native American. You're the first American.
What is the land to the Indian person?
The land is very sacred. It's alive. It's breathing. It's relating to you all the time. It's alive, just like you and I are. It has a pulse, and that pulse is the seasons. Life to the Native American person is it runs in cycles, and you have to change as the cycles change, and it's all very natural. It's all very peaceful.
What are the Native American people doing now?
I think the Native American people have been awake the whole time. They've always tried to teach. They've always tried to give their point of view. Nobody's listened. And I really believe that we are the caretakers. We're almost chosen to do that task.
The Santa Fe community exists because it is home to different people. The bond of these people to this land has forced them to remain here and therefore to learn to live together. But our talk with Darren has raised the question of responsibility for the future of this earth. Is it only the native people who are the caretakers?
A response to this question came from a most unlikely source. The area around Santa Fe is also birthplace and home to the atomic bomb, and Alexander had asked to visit an installation involved with nuclear weapons research. Today we are at Sandia National Laboratory to witness the firing of our country's most powerful gamma ray generator that simulates the effects of nuclear war. Dr. Pace Van Devener is head of the United States Pulse Power Program and is our host.
Charge complete. Disconnect. 3, 2, 1.
Our crew has been invited to the home of Dr. Van Devener for a very unusual dinner. For the first time, top Soviet and American physicists are working together at a highly classified US weapons laboratory. We took this opportunity to raise the question of personal accountability.
Scientists bear the final responsibility for the use of his product, of his art.
I think he bears the final responsibility in his own actions, okay? And I really think that the individual does have to come to terms with his own feeling as to whether his work can be what are the use of his work. You know, you don't
cannot
live.
agree with such. I am responsible as a person. I must have my decision, but my decision isn't sufficient. You see, it isn't sufficient. I can go aside. It changed nothing. Only the High Parliament must control it in openness.
And take that responsibility.
Yes.
I'd even say that they are the best qualified to make those decisions. They're better qualified to
They will make decisions better than I.
Yes.
I will go aside. It's my.
Listen to that man.
It's my opinion.
But how is this little old Indian boy going to behave? I mean, I have to make a decision myself. Just passing it on and saying my decision is not enough, clearly. Okay, what I decide is irrelevant in many ways.
Yes.
But does that allow me to not make a decision at all?
Yes. But you asked me who is now responsible. Now only high officials.
No,
but
people.
Now.
Who's in
You are completely unaware about it. Completely. They don't know nothing.
But they agree with this situation, and they must have another situation. They must be disagree with.
It must be.
Must be, and we must work for this.
Of course, it must be in future.
So then, in the end, then who is responsible? If it's
Now?
not- yes.
All the very high officials.
No,
Now.
no. Mankind.
I think it's the people.
Not officials.
I agree.
People.
Who is responsible? In our story, we have seen some of the capabilities of mankind. We have seen strength and virtue and consequence. We are not yet clear of the woods.
0.
We live with the monuments of our genius and our mistakes. We exist, in fact, in a world of Leningrads and Santa Fe's, for everyone has a home. Yet the time may be upon us to realize that we truly have but a single home, and it belongs to us all, and there really is no one to fight. With the passion of Leningrad and the respect of Santa Fe, we can take this thought from the realm of dreams to the world of daily life. We must only realize that it can be done and that no one is better prepared than ourselves. Who is responsible? If not the individual, then who?